Hello, welcome all. We are back this 30 Faces 30 Days. I see already some people here from all over the world. I'm Patrick Hochstenbach. I live in Bruges, it is in Belgium. And I'm a comic artist and an illustrator. And I like to make some drawings every day. So this month we are doing 30 Faces 30 Days. That means that we are creating every day a new portrait. So there are many people that send their photos to Sketchy, and we as artists can use this photo to make portraits of people. And this month we are doing it especially on the iPad with Procreate, and we will do it today. We will make a drawing if everything works, of course. In live systems that can always go something wrong. I see already people I know. Hello, Anon from Texas. I know this guy. It's a Dutch friend. Hello, Jos. And then I see Rick. And how is the weather there? Is still everyone happy? And everyone has their drawing stuff? Because we are going to draw a bit. Well, I need to switch my equipment a bit, because that seems to be a problem with my iPad, but no problem. I have a second one. So today we are going to draw this guy here. I have an image. It's a very nice. This is the father of the husband of Margaret Aasman, and she's one of the sketchy drawers for this month. Let's first get my tools. And this is a very nice person to draw. It's a very nice pose, a bit turn to this right. It's a bit of a challenging pose to work with. So I want to show you all the stages that we can do to make a new portrait of him. Yes, I'm set up. So let me first switch my screen. This is my drawing screen. I will put myself here in the bottom. That's me. This is already a drawing I created, but let's create a new drawing. And for this drawing I will use a double screen size, because it is much handier. You get a bigger screen to work on, much more pixels. And when you increase or decrease your pen size, you get much more details. Indeed, you already drew the image of Margaret today, but we thought, well, I can redo it maybe in a new style, because Margaret is really an expert in a very fine drawing style with beautiful details, and my style is more a comic style, and then you get a bit of an contrast between the different types of drawing styles you can use. So for this portrait, I will first make a sketch, and then we are going to ink this sketch, and maybe if there is some time left, we can add some colors or not. As for the sketch, I will use sketching tools. I think we will use the standard sketching tools that are already available in Procreate. This we have the Procreate pencil, this one here, and I will use a blue color. So if you have any questions, I will try to read all your comments here. But of course, my multitasking skills are not so good, so I need to keep an eye there and an eye on my drawing. So let's start with a pencil and make it a bit big. Okay. And how do you start with a portrait like this? Well, what I do is I am looking for angles in the drawing. So you see this guy is pointing a bit to the right. So I see a line of his eyebrows are pointing downwards. So I first draw this line. So I already see the lines in the drawing. Then I will what I try to do is try to think in angles. So it's for a human eye, I think much more interesting or easier to see the angles in a face than to really try to reconstruct the complete exact nose, because we as a human are so focused on seeing every detail in the eye and the nose. It's maybe sometimes a bit harder to draw because we are so much focused on the eyes. When you focus on angles, it's much more easier to get a first impression on the paper. So what I also use is always you have a vanishing point in this drawing. So this guy is looking a bit to his right, so on the left of the drawing. So there's somewhere in the left is some vanishing point where all the lines that are normally parallel in a face will meet. So normally your eyebrows are parallel, your eyes are parallel, your underside of the nose is parallel, and your chin is parallel. But when you look at the right or the left, all these parallel lines will start to point to the horizon. And here in this drawing, even because he is pointing downwards, the lines will be a bit under the horizon, but you don't need to know the exact details, but you need to know that somewhere these lines will meet somewhere, so some will go much deeper than other lines. When you draw it a bit too big, you can resize it with this button here. I think I will do a bit of the basics of Procreate drawing, but because we have a mix of people that want to start with Procreate drawing or want to start with creating a portrait. And I want to show you some tricks and tips. So I start first in the blue color, because it's a bit easier for me to see all the mistakes. When you draw immediately in black colors or in gray colors, it always looks as a finished portrait. But in the first sketching phase, you want to make it many mistakes and just experiment a bit where all the lines are. So I'm constantly looking at the reference photo, and just a bit almost blindly I'm moving my pen on the paper, because my hand knows a bit better than my eyes where all the things are. The only thing you need to remember is a common mistake that many people make in this type of view, is that the ears are always a bit further away from the eyes than you normally think. So I see many portraits where the ears are much too close to the eyes, and you need to make some kind of an educated guess where the ears should be. And my trick is always put it a bit further than my natural feeling would place them, and that will place them at the correct spot. So I'll make it a bit smaller. I hope you can still see what I am drawing. So this is the first stage. Now we can add a new layer on top. And I will lock this one. And I will create a new sketch in red. So we can add more details in red. So let's start with the eyes. And with the eyes, it's very important not to draw the eyes that you learn in high school when you get drawing classes there. That is not just two ovals. An eye is a three-dimensional shape. And there's always multiple lines. So you get much more an impression of a real eye when you add all these lines for the eyelids. And certainly this guy has a beautiful face, so it's very nice to get all this extra information you can add to your drawing. This is very hard for me when you are drawing very young people. They don't have many lines in their face, so every line you create should be very perfect. And with older people, it's a bit easier to add lines because it's not that bad. And when you're a bit off, it still gives a correct portrait. So also a nose is a three-dimensional object, and what I think in the nose, I think it is some kind of box, a cut-off box that is turned on its side. So what I think, and normally I wouldn't draw this box. I just keep this 3D thing in my mind. There's a question here from Salmet. Let me put it here. So as he asks, as a beginner, should one try various techniques, or just one at a time to develop, e.g. with the Loomis heads? Well, I think as a beginning drawer, you need to draw a lot. So this is the best advice I could really give there. Draw every day, and it doesn't matter what technique you are using. So in the past I used every technique possible. I did cartooning, I did realistic drawing. I went to the library and got these picture books with drawings from Rembrandt and tried to draw them. I copied also very many things of the favorite comic artists. I just tried to copy how they did it and learned a bit how do their lines work. So the first stage, if you're beginning with drawing, is try to get a habit to draw every day. And it doesn't matter what you draw. You can draw your breakfast or things you see on your table or any objects you see. It doesn't matter. Every drawing you create is in one drawing more. It will help you to develop your style. Also, as in beginning to draw, well, you don't need to look that careful to what you see online and on Instagram, because it can be very frustrating, because there are so many brilliant artists on Instagram. And what I learned too late is that I was trying to copy these people and to copy their styles, and it's really the worst way to learn to draw, because what you need to do is to develop your own style. And what I always thought what was wrong, because I thought my style was the wrong way to draw, actually turned out to become my own style. So the things that you do wrong is actually your own style. You only need to take advantage of these wrong things, these wrong lines, and do them to perfection. It is very good to have a wrong line. These are the only lines that are really your lines. So I hope this answers your question. You have also a hand here. Oops, I did a mistake. There's also a technique that you can have one layer. I will unlock this. You can put all these. You can select both these layers by making them both blue, and then you can move both these layers. So you can resize them. It's a trick I only recently learned from YouTube. So I think when I create a sketch, I don't put all the details in there, because in every stage of drawing you need to keep on this feeling of sketching, because when you sketch you have a very creative way how your hand is moving, and you want to keep this sketchy feeling also when you are inking or when you are adding many other things to your drawing. It makes your drawing quite alive and full of energy. So when you are going to ink it, so let me ink it. No, let me first. What I do first is unlock it, and I will put the opacity a bit lower. So because when I ink this, I don't want to see all these red lines. It's a bit too harsh. So I go to this button here, and I choose for opacity, and then you move your slider a bit to the left, yeah, and then you will see the red is not as intense. Then I can switch off the blue and have a bit less intense sketch. And then when you go into the inking phase, I do it on a new layer above this old layer, and then you need to choose a style how you want to ink this, and there are as many styles of inking as there are artists there. So you can use a zillion of tools, but let me choose the standard tools. There is an for inking. You have very many types of brushes, ink blades, studio pens. It's hard to choose the right one, right? Let's choose the studio pen. This is a standard pen, and I also will use in black. But I also learned yesterday or this weekend from France that he likes to use an green with not that green, but a bit of a darker green. It gives also a bit nice effect. So when I'm inking, I zoom in a bit. I have my brush. I will test first if it is the correct size. And the nice thing about it is ink brushes is that it's sensitive. And this is what you want, because this gives the energy in your lines. And normally, I look when you start inking, you slow down. So normally the first sketch, the blue sketch, is fast, the red sketch is a bit slower. And when inking, you really slow down. You need to get your heart rate down, because it is quite sensitive. Certainly this is special sensitive, how these lines will react. The idea is that you put the sickle lines in the direction whereas there is less light. So the light lines are more in the light direction, and the darker lines are more for the shadow regions. And what I like to use is a style it's not kind of a cross-hatching style, but it works with ticks, like that you are creating dots. It's not really a dot on your paper, but a bit of a flick. You flick it a bit with the tip of your brush. Well, need to set better. Well, now it's gone, and it gives some kind of an accent. This accent you also see in Chinese calligraphy. They are very good in making this accent. And when you starting this accent, you need to have it a bit of a flick so that it gives some energy in the lines. It's a very good way to give an impression of a shadow. Normally when you are doing cross-hatching, you do it in each of the directions. Also the iris of the eye is a bit higher than put it really in the middle. And now we have the hairs. And the hairs, I think there's something that you really need to concentrate to learn this, to draw hair, because it's a challenge for many people, and also a challenge for me, because many people tend to draw hair as some kind of random lines, but it's certainly not random lines in hair. It looks maybe random, but the feeling should be that it's very controlled. So it's not really wild drawing with your pen. You need to control it a bit, because if you make it a mess, it will look like a mess. And many people spend too much time in learning to draw the eyes or the nose, and you should spend equal amount of time also to draw hair, because this really also breaks your drawing. And I spent I think several weeks only making studies of how other artists were drawing hair. It's very nice to learn this, how this is working. So what the brush I'm using is this one in inking, and then the studio pen. Let me start here first with this mouth. Everywhere in the face, but also in the human body, you have these S curves, like this one here. These S curves are really, you find it in every part of the human body, and you need to learn where they are and how to recognize them, because if you starting to find them, you will see them in every part of the body, and it is very nice to draw, and gives also some speed and energy into your drawing. Usually also using this kind of dots, not really nice lines, but really dots, and not very far from each other, about the width of the inking pen. It can be a bit random, but not too clean. So it's a bit hard to say clean and not clean. Put this here. So I'm still using the studio pen brush, and it really doesn't matter what kind of brush you use, but I'm using the inking brush. You can also buy a lot of brushes, and every brush has another feeling. So I also these days I'm trying to experiment with the different brushes, and every brush is really feels like another type of drawing tool you get for other techniques. The only things I never use are the special brushes, so I never go into drawing or calligraphy or painting, airbrush, textures, abstracts, all these things. You get thousands of brushes. I actually never use, because I'm more of a liner artist, and I would love to learn to use all the colors that Margaret also uses. All the other teachers are using, but I don't know. They are so good, and I always feel like I'm just experimenting. But a friend of Texas said that I need to learn to use more colors in my drawing, and I will try. I will try. I will try. I really think that some people are really born to recognize what are the good color combinations. Also, you have many sources online. There's also something nice to do, so not always you have enough energy, maybe in the evening to draw. And then you can make like a Pinterest board to find good inspiration for colors or for inking styles, and very nice way to spend your evening. I'm inking a lot and don't say a lot how I do it, but the message is here: when you're drawing eyes, you really have to keep in mind that it is a 3D object, and not forget everything you learn in school, in high school, because it is just wrong. You need to draw what you see, or as I explained to Salmet, you go to the library and copy just what you see of other great artists. There's nothing better school than just copy and what you see and try to learn the techniques of the biggest artists you have in the world, and then you have to make it your own. What I also like to do, but you can't do now, and because I'm now in this live thing, is always to get into the mood. I put images on my desktop with the nice things, the beautiful illustrations and art, and I look at these illustrations not to make them into the art I'm currently now, but get into a mood, feel all the lines, feel all the rhythms I see in this inspiration, and it's always, I feel a bit like the original artist is looking over my shoulder and helps me a bit to create more of better lines. When you using this inking style of this accents, it's very good to think of this face as a direction. So you see this all these accents are moving away from a center here. It's not in just in any direction. You see a movement. See, it's almost as that you are making a circle away from some point in the face. So it might look at the first sight like a random accents you make, but it gives also a kind of an harmony and a direction where you should focus your eye. Because when you're creating a portrait, the main reason is not to create a portrait that is really the person, but you are creating an impression, and that is the nice part of drawing. You have your own way to making a new world, to play around, because when you are focusing too long on creating a real perfect copy of the reference photo, well, then is my question: why are you drawing this photo and not using your photo camera? Because this would be much more perfect than you would ever be able to draw. I think people, I love that people are just experimenting and maybe making choices. I love people that can just dare to make the face different and sizes, and it gives a whole new idea how you can look to this drawing. But it depends on your own style. Now we are starting with the hands, so I could make a whole new lesson about how to draw hands. I was very bad in drawing hands, so I was already in comic artist when I was in my university. I had to make comics for the university papers, but I couldn't draw hands, so I did everything to avoid to draw hands. It was also for a very long time I just couldn't do it, and I spent a summer holiday only drawing hands and really drawing it bit by bit. First to draw the top part of the hand, and then the middle part, and then the both of the parts in any direction, and then slowly building up each of the parts. Oops. However, in time, half an hour. Oops. So maybe I should stop a bit and give a bit more energy to my pencil. Are there some questions you have about the drawing process or about sketchy? Because we are still in the sketchy month, so you can still go to sketchy and you can enter, you can see all the podcasts there, you can join in. It is a website with lifetime, you get access. So, and it's really the sketchy community is the nicest community I ever went in, because all the people are so supportive, and they are really giving much attention to all the artists to really and enjoy making art. Because Instagram, I have more the idea it is much more let me see what I can do and how perfect my art is, and the sketchy is for me really an artist community that enjoys art. Yeah, I'm so this Anon says that he enjoys at how fast I do these things, and indeed I'm probably most of the time too fast. So this is one of the habits I need to learn, to slow down a bit. But also when you go fast, you get more more of these dynamic lines. So why do lines disappear? Oops, I need to drag it here. So why do lines disappear sometimes as I draw them? Is really annoying. Yes, it is indeed really annoying. It also happens to me, and I don't know how exactly it works, but I think there is some gesture in Procreate to delete the previous lines. And actually, I don't know what this gesture is, but certainly I always use this eraser. Also, when I press on the on the iPad, sometimes I get little lines here. I need to use this eraser to remove them. It's annoying, but not that annoying. It's much more annoying when you are drawing with real ink and you get this ink blob on your paper you just can't remove. I also see there's already an answer from Nick. So you can turn off the hand registering and somewhere and options, I think. But Nick will help you. Thank you, Nick. So when you draw this person, yeah, the hair is some kind of a pattern. So here, this guy has, Albert, has a bit of a wild hair. And maybe you don't see a lot of pattern in these lines, but also it's a bit random, but not completely random. You see the lines are really like a wave. It goes over the head. You see this a bit. It's not very mathematical lines you are creating. You're creating a pattern of an wave. So it would be wrong to make it very neat and straight lines because it's very boring. But sometimes also when a girl's hair maybe is in strands, and normally I draw this line of the hair a bit faster. And that's why you need to draw every day, because every day you draw, your hands gets much more relaxed and much more used to drawing these fast lines. It's also one of the inking things you can do, is an inking exercise where you draw many parallel lines, and you need to do it with a fleck. And for me, it's the controlled way to do it to my direction, and this way you can learn to draw fast lines. This is one of the warming up exercises inking artists do. We can make it a bit bigger and try to make it much closer to each other. Or there's an exercise that goes first to thick and then thin and thick, but I'm not good in this iPad. But we're working on a brush. Normally, when you are a comic artist, there are many types of comic artists. There are specialists that only do the sketching, there are specialists that only do the inking, there are specialists that only do the coloring, there are specialists that do doing the special effects, and also the specialists who get the money. So let's try adding some black. To have a balance of black is very important in a drawing. It's giving also the attention to the eyes. I think a bit too big. And when you go over it a second time, you get also an impression of much more. You don't have to do it very thickly, but it gives you more line variation, and it's much more interesting to see. There are actually two styles in Belgian comics. One style says you don't need to use all this line variation. That is what Hergé, the father of Tintin, used. He used a very tiny amount of line variation, and the other school says no, you have to use a big line variation. That is the style of Gaston and Franquin, and maybe you also know people like Möbius. He was good in any style, so most of the people just choose one of those styles. So let's switch off the ink, the the sketch and look at it how it looks. I think we have a very good already in start of an inking thing. So what we do next. So normally I would say I will post this on the Instagram and then it is done. There's one extra drawing in a day, but now maybe we have some 20 minutes left. I can show what we can do with how to color this thing. So let's first rename this to ink, so that you know this is the ink. And let's lock this and add a new layer below, because we are inking, adding some color there below the inking layer. And I will use an coloring technique is also from the comics. It's an American technique. It's called the cell technique. Here I will use the selection tool, and then you can select a region. And there's a region here. And then you can say fill it, and then you have filled this region with some color. I use my inking tool to add a bit to the details. This very fast way to fill large regions with some color. There's also online. There are very many of these these schemes you can buy or download. As I'm not very good into this selection, what is the best selection, I just download some of these palettes, and I have a good choice of these colors that can mix quite good. This is called the manga style here, so it immediately gives me a very nice skin color. So when you are during the 30 phases, you get very many lessons of our sketchy teachers, and they are all very good in choosing these colors and mixing them and doing the most wonderful things I can't do. So I also need to learn this, but I can show you some basic appropriate tricks. Let's choose a brownish thing for his code. Oops. Undo. Because I want to show you some shadowing tricks. This is the technique that comic artists used in the 70s, when you could earn a lot of money with very cheap, fast comic books. And they needed to color them quite fast, because every I think 2 weeks they needed to produce a whole new comic book of 60 pages, and then you didn't have the time to doing really exact, the perfect coloring that our teachers will teach you when you join our 30 phases 30 days. A bit too dark. We can go into this tool, the adjustment, the recolor. And then you can select this one, and maybe I can make it a bit less. So you can change all the colors here, make it a bit lighter. Let's try this one. It's just a subtle color here. For the hair it's a bit more difficult, but you can. It's a nice thing about the selection tool. You can almost draw with it. Fill. I think his real hair is a bit lighter than this. So when you do this first phase, it's called laying the flats on the. It's just adding, just tracing the image. I don't know what this eyes would make it a bit bluish, brownish. I don't know, brownish. So this is the first phase. I noticed I missed a spot, so I select one color. I think you can only do it with your hand, or I can go to the history. That's something here. Okay, this is the first phase. Now we add some shadows, and we do this by adding a new layer on top. So this we call it the flats. And we log this. We add a new layer on top. It's called the shadow layer. And we do this not in the normal mode. I press here on the N. It changes the blending mode. The blending mode changes a bit how this layer behaves. And I will move it to the multiply. It's the top blending mode, and put the opacity to about 24 or 23, 23. And then I choose a color, a shadow color, but I will choose a bit of a purple, a dark purple color here. So what it does on white, it does. Oops, it will give. Also on white, it gives you this this purple, but a bit because the opacity is low. You don't see it the very hard purple there. But if you do it on a color region, it makes the color region a bit more and a shadow effects of the purple. So because the shadows normally in broad daylight are a bit purple in color, you can add this easily. Add this colors, this shadows in your drawing. So let me do also go a bit faster. You can also do it with the selection tool and do the fill. And you can use the eraser. It's very nice. And you can it's not the best eraser that I have. I will choose the same eraser as my inking tool. Let's choose the studio pen. And then we can add some bit of shadows on this image. From my viewpoint, the shadows are too hard. Maybe I don't know how it will look at your end, but we can change it later. But you see this style very often. It's so recognizable in comic books, and when you see it once, you do it once, you can recognize it immediately if you see in comic books, and then you see they use this multiply blending mode with this purple. It's a bit too harsh, so I go back to the multiply, and if you change the opacity a bit lower, you can change how hard this shadow will be. This is one part. You can also do it on the green. Then the green gets a bit darker, or the brown. See? I don't know if you can see this, but also here the brown part gets a bit darker. This is one of the ways you can add a bit more shadow. I've tried to use the Photoshop on the iPad. There's also a way to have your iPad connected to your PC. There's a question I have with Jackie. Oh, I have it now 2 times. So that is an Photoshop on iPad that is not as good as this Procreate. There's also a way to connect your desktop screen and use it on your iPad, and then you can start up the Photoshop and use it on your iPad. But I didn't like it because you need a very good Wi-Fi, very fast Wi-Fi, and your computer needs to be fast enough, and it just felt very as a very slow system to me. And of the tools I use on the iPad, I think this Procreate has all the options that I really need. So, of course, in Photoshop you have very many options, but for the stuff I do, maybe some others need more. But for what I do, I have enough with what Procreate gives me. Just to make his lips a bit. Yeah, so indeed, in Photoshop you have a lot of ways to play with the layers. I think it can be a separate lesson what all these layers do. I think there is some information also in Procreate of the other teachers that will talk a bit how all these layers work. So at the end, you can add more of these shadows here. You can also add some kind of a highlight. This is also a very cheap trick of comic artists, very fast. You make it into the normal mode. You keep the normal mode, but you make it less opaque. Then you get a whitish color, or maybe even white. Oops, this one. And then in the lightest part, you can add some kind of a highlight. What it does, it immediately gives some more depth in your drawing, because these white lines really pop up, and it enhances the 3D structure of your drawing. So here is black, so I can't draw over the black, so I will just create a new layer, also a bit less here, and I can draw over the black. Also add some highlights here. So this is the very easy way, well, a reasonable easy way how to add some colors to the drawing. I think just a basic of experimenting what works best for you, but certainly for a comic style, this is a very easy, fast way how you can do this cell drawing. There's actually on YouTube a very good teacher who will teach how to add this colors to in a comic style. The guy is called I think Lumage or Limage. You need to find him on YouTube. He has a very good channel where I learned how to use all these blending modes, and he is basically using more the Photoshop approach with all these techniques that he teaches. You can also use on Procreate. So I think we need, of course, as an artist, you need to add your name. Well, I need to add my name, of course. It's not in this layer, but maybe in a new layer. And this is also a thing. This even your name should be a bit in balance where you place it, because it's this you can't just write something down. Just for instance, France Stone has a very nice stylized name she can place on her drawing. Oops. What you can also do is put it in a box. So normally I will draw on the standard tools here, but if you want to post it on Instagram, it needs to best be on a box of 1080 by 1080 in height and width. So I first copy my canvas. So you can see it here, this tool, and then it says add, and then you can do copy the canvas. Then you can go to the gallery, and then you can make a new canvas, like here. Let's do it. Make one of 180. Oops. 1080 by 1080 because that is the perfect size for Procreate. See, it's a square, and then now you can go back here, this button, and then paste. And now you have the perfect Instagram size, and then you can resize it and place it somewhere on your canvas where you think where everything is in harmony. You want to have enough white space, and you just don't place it too close to the boundary. Then you can make it a bit. Oops. One more, Patrick. When you select it a bit, you can also move it a bit, not as fast, by tapping on the right, or the top, or the bottom. Then the thing you have selected will move very slowly to each direction, and then you can really make a very fine-tuned way where to place your drawing. So if this is done, then you can export your drawing to Instagram and to our Skitsy school, and then you get all the nice feedback and thumbs up, and you have a new drawing. So are there some more questions, or do you want to draw, or do you need to say something? I had something on my list. Well, yeah, of course, if you have put this on Instagram, we all share this thing on Instagram with the hashtag hash 30 days 30 faces, and then you can see all the artists that are also joining in this program. You'll also see I made some liberal choice how I created this project, how we created this portrait of Albert, but it's a thing you would like to do, have fun, and don't worry. Here's a question: do I use Procreate for demos only, or also create finish art for sales as well? Yes, both. So this is the nice thing about the latest version of Procreate. It can do all the modes that you need for print, but also for digital. Going to digital, so it has the CMYK mode for if you want to do it in print. It's all the modes for unfinished art. It can do PDF. It can export into Photoshop. So I hope you enjoyed it at all, and I hope to see you soon. Also in Sketchy, and join us with 30 Faces 30 Days. Thank you. Goodbye.